actually like interview me. Yeah, at Lowe's. The lumber yard in particular. We're here to pick up some wood.
Plywood.
Some lumber.
Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, Everyday Grace. As you've seen, this video is in dedication to my late father. I'm not gonna lie, I've been procrastinating making this video and doing the voiceover because it just brings back a lot of emotions. It wasn't that long ago that my father passed away. He passed away in July, and I've trying to grieve and deal with it. It's just been very difficult, but this is something that I wanted to do. I wanted to make this video in dedication to him for a couple of reasons. One being that whenever I was younger, he always had the camera on. He was big on home videos, and he always had the camera. He was always recording us and doing things. Another reason is in today's video, we are actually going to be making a Christmas float, and this is something he was very passionate about. He took it seriously, and he was so talented, so I kind of want to go over that and talk with y'all about him and about what he did and who he was and what kind of man he was. So first and foremost, my father was a single father to 4 daughters, and Lord bless his soul, he did absolutely the best he could. My mother was around, but she was going through her own things, and they had gotten divorced when I was very, very young, so she wasn't always present, so he had primary custody of us. And my father wasn't a suburban man wearing khaki pants. He was a backwoods redneck, so you can imagine a man like that raising 4 daughters, but he did a really good job, actually. We all turned out okay. There's a lot of funny stories that we can tell you about childhood memories and things that happened. My dad was a very talented man, and whenever I say talented, I mean talented. This whole Christmas float was designed and built by him. He cut the wood out, he painted it, he traced it. I mean, all of that he did by himself. And he would have us out there working. I was probably about 6 years old, and he'd have me out there painting them suckers, and I would be just getting it, and I would be so happy because I was always included. He always made sure to include us in his projects, and he was always on some projects. If it wasn't a Christmas float, it was something around the house. If it wasn't something around the house, it was something to do with the land. He was a very busy man, and he liked to stay busy. And that's something I actually got from him. I like to always piddle in something, and he was always piddling in something. He constantly was going. You'll see later on in this video a set of bleachers and a black pole that has multiple poles sticking off of that the reindeer hang off of, and he actually made that. He welded that together specifically for his trailer that he made the float on, and I just can't explain to you how much hard work that takes and dedication and patience, which is far beyond usually what I can do, because whenever I was younger, I had no patience. I do now that I'm older, so maybe hopefully I can do some things that he was able to do, but I've never seen anybody do the things that he did. For many years, he worked as a Class A CDL driver hauling nitrous oxide tanks for a company in our area. But before that, he was a volunteer firefighter. He hauled newspapers for the Dallas Morning News, and he had multiple jobs before all of that, but that was before I was born. Mainly, it was that, hauling tanks that he did while I've been alive. He had multiple hobbies, such as dancing, singing, karaokeing. He played the djembe, and he was in different bands in our area throughout my whole childhood, and he would go and play at different churches and events. We owned horses whenever I was younger, so a lot of times we would go to ride them, and this was before everyone had cell phones. So what he would do is usually I would ride with one of my sisters, because at that time I didn't own a horse. But I would ride with one of them, and he would give us a walkie-talkie, and he would have the walkie-talkie while he was at the house, and he would let us go and ride on the back pasture, and he would always contact us, make sure we were safe and everything. I just think it's really funny how creative he was on those things, because I don't know, I don't feel like I would have thought about a walkie-talkie. My dad was very country, but he also enjoyed his dad rock. And by dad rock, I mean Creed and Shinedown and Skillet, those type of bands. He loved listening to them. I remember I was little and I would be able to recite like 3 or 4. I'm able to recite all the lyrics to their songs because he would blare them at the house and he'd be singing karaoke to them, and we would all of us girls would be singing along right with him. He was also a very funny man. You could never take him seriously because he was always joking. He had these sayings he would say to you, and I'd heard it all my life. They say dad jokes. Well, he had a ton of dad jokes, and they were all like, we're from East Texas, so we're a little bit country, but they were like, if I ever told you a chicken pulled a freight train and hook a harness up, would you believe me? Stuff like that, sayings he would say and things he would do. He was really funny about doing the chicken dance, and he would just light up the room. And whenever I say light up, I mean it. Everybody knew him for being a jokester. Like, for example, after he passed, his class that he graduated with, apparently they had went to his funeral, but apparently they had went somewhere else, later on, and one of them tried to say a saying that he would always say, and they just kind of looked at the guy and they were like, no, you can't do it like Keith did. And though he was funny, he was also very protective. And dads are very known for being protective, but I don't know. There's been some situations that I've been put in and my sisters have been put in, and whenever I say that he protected us and he did not play, he did not care who he went up against, he was going to protect his daughters. Like any relationship, my dad and I didn't always get along. Neither one of us were perfect. We both had a little bit of a temper, so we didn't always see eye to eye on things. But one thing I can say is no matter what, we got into an argument or anything like that, no matter what, I knew at the end of the day, if I called my dad and said, I need you, he would be there. And I don't mean like, they say parents are like that. No, I mean whatever I needed. If it was at 3 o'clock in the morning, if it was, different things that happened and he needed to like leave, or, things that he was doing, he would drop everything. It didn't matter if it was an event he was at or if he was on a date, because my dad, he was a single man for a while, so he dated. He would drop everything to help us. He did not play. His kids came first. I have a lot of fond childhood memories. There's a couple of them, like whenever he would be in his shop working, he'd be welding, doing something. Like I said, he always stayed busy. I would be in the backyard with my sisters playing on the trampoline. Or whenever we would go find a tree to cut down and we would have a bonfire. We were really big on bonfires. That was one of the things that is tradition pretty much in our family, is we have bonfires, s'mores, and chili dogs. That was a very fond childhood memory that we still do to this day. Or like whenever he was trying to teach us how to fish. So he would get a 5-gallon bucket. He'd put it about 20 feet away from us, and he would get, in the yard, he would get our fishing rods, and he would have us cast our reel and try to get the hook into the bucket, or, the bobber or whatever it was that was on the end of it, because we weren't actually fishing. But he would try to get us to get that in the bucket, and if we got it in the bucket, we would get an ice cream sandwich at the end from the gas station. I was very close with my father, so the grieving process has been absolutely horrible. I've been through a lot in my life, but I've never been through what I'm going through right now. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but I have family that I can lean on. My husband is there for me, and my son and my father were very close. And my son was 8 whenever he passed away. He was fixing to turn 9. So they were very close, and it's so cool because my son actually got some of his personality, and some of the things that he does reminds me so much of my dad. And I'm so thankful that God gave me a piece of him and my son.
Rudolph needed a makeover. This side was looking really rough. Wait, hold on. This side was looking really rough, so I sanded it, and I'm gonna redo it. Try to get this stuff done, y'all, but this side of Rudolph looked really good. I don't mind my trashy porch now.
YouTube has been a big help on keeping me distracted, because whenever he first died, it happened suddenly, and we weren't expecting it, so I pretty much, people grieve differently. Well, I learned that I shut down. I didn't want to eat. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't be a parent. I couldn't do anything. I was literally like a walking ghost. It got really bad at one point. And maybe one day, I don't want to go into too much detail about it, but I was really struggling. Maybe one day I'll sit down and talk about it, but not today. But I was struggling. I'm doing better now. I've still got my days where I really struggle, and there are other days where I'm okay. I didn't think I was going to get to that point, but I'm here. And I've got a really good support system, so I'm blessed, and I'm going to keep fighting every day to be here and be present for LJ and be a present parent like my father was for me, because he lost his dad a year before I was born, and he didn't stop living. Thankfully, he didn't give up. If you are going through the grieving process and you happen to stumble upon this video, I ask that you would please, please, please don't give up. I know it is very difficult, and I know that it feels like you want to die too, and that a part of you did die. But it gets better. You'll make it through it. You just have to give yourself time, day by day, minute by minute, second by second. I didn't believe everyone whenever they said it was going to get better. And it has. It's not perfect, and it'll never be perfect. And it's always going to hurt. But it does get better. And don't be scared to ask for help. I had to get help. So don't let anybody make you feel ashamed if you have to get help. Just do what you need to do for yourself to survive. That's literally what you're doing in the grieving process. You're surviving.
No, we're f***ing done. Move out the way. Move out the way. You almost took your eye out. I got chills. No, you don't. You're fired. You're fired from this one. Holy crap. It's different when you're being watched. I'm sorry. Yeah, look at it. All right, Mama, what do you think?
It's beautiful. Y'all did a lot of work on it.
Yeah, we did. You ready to ride Saturday?
Yeah. I'm not going to ride on the float.
No, you'll be in the car, in the truck.
The last thing that I want to say is that my dad was a godly man. He joked about a lot of things, but he did not play about his religion. That is something he took seriously. He would always have us in church. He did not like missing, Sundays at church, any of that. So, whenever he died, I couldn't pull myself together. There were nights that I was sitting outside, cursing the stars, cursing at God. Why did you do this? How could you do this to me? Why did you take him? Things were going to get better. I just needed a little more time. But that's of the flesh. Those are things of the flesh. Because the truth is that he was suffering down here in pain. His health was not good. His situations were not good. And he was hurting. And we don't understand why God calls home his people whenever he does. It's never on our time. But we have to understand and trust that it is best for them and He has a greater plan for us, even if we don't understand it. And I don't think I'll ever understand. But I'm just going to have faith, just like my father did. Because my thought process is selfish. Why would I want him down here suffering if God wanted to call him home to where he wouldn't no longer be in pain, no longer suffering, no longer struggling? So I'm going to trust that God knew better than me and that I will see him again one day. And that'll be the day that I run to my Father with open arms. And if I know anything about him, I know that he's going to catch me.